Welcome everybody to day 14 of our Gita Collective Bhagavad-gītā immersion for the month of September. 14 days, we're almost half the way through. And for me, it's just, it's exciting every day. I'm really enjoying this. So let's dive in. Let's start with a bit of a visualization exercise. Now, imagine a family, let's say like a husband and wife, and let's say they have a small boy as a son. Imagine they've gone on a trip to the Grand Canyon and they've just arrived to the Grand Canyon and it's sunrise and the rim is lit up in colors that seem unreal. It's orange and pink and gold, and there's these deep violet shadows that are stretching on for mile after mile, and it's like a once-in-a-lifetime view, and it's just vast and overwhelming. And the parents are just standing there in awe and speechless, just feeling something inside that they never felt, maybe feeling connection to God or thinking about life or appreciating beauty on a level that they've never experienced before. And meanwhile, the child is there. And the child is not focused on this at all. The child is just completely absorbed in trying to get better reception on their phone so that they can be playing this little game on their mobile phone. Now think about this. There's something astonishing going on here, and the child their awareness is focused on the totally mundane. There's something that's very significant, and they're focused on something that's very trivial. And there's something that's potentially very uplifting and transformative, and they're focused on something that's degrading, that just kind of drags them down. Right? This is all of yoga and the Bhagavad-gītā have to do with our awareness, where our consciousness goes, where our memory goes, where our thoughts go. Yoga is all about our thoughts. And in the last verse of the 7th chapter, Kṛṣṇa shared something with Arjuna that's very important. He said, those that are in full consciousness of me, those who have brought their thoughts to me, who know me as the Supreme Lord, as the governing principle of all the material manifestation, of all the devas, the demigods, and of all the methods of sacrifice, that person, they can understand and know me even at the time of death. And this is really important here because this is, in a sense, the main theme of chapter 8, which is entitled Attaining the Supreme, is that our thoughts, they determine, they create the template for our destination, right? What we absorb our thoughts in, it's not just something that's passing through the mind for that moment and it has no other consequence. But according to the Gita, whatever we're thinking about, whatever our mind becomes absorbed in, that is going to, and particularly at the moment of death, that's going to determine our next life. So we need to ask ourselves, where's my mind focused? Is my awareness, is my mind focused on that which is astonishing or that which is mundane? That which is significant or that which is trivial? That which is uplifting or that which ultimately degrades me? And if we look at the world that we've created, you can imagine if we just lived more in nature, we might naturally be more absorbed in that which is astonishing and that which is significant, and we may be more uplifted by it. But we've created a world with endless distractions and all kinds of knickknacks and toys and technology and digital stuff to get absorbed in. Our minds are getting degraded by it, and that's creating the template for our future. How do we break that? How does anyone break that? How does one uplift their thoughts, and what is the best object to uplift them to? That's what we're going to read about in chapter 7. Now, this really significant point that particularly our thoughts at the time of death determine our destination is really brought out in this chapter. And then we get kind of like a back and forth where Kṛṣṇa is saying, now one can remember me and come to me as an Ashtanga yogi or one can do it as a bhakta, right? There's a back and forth between Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, and he keeps giving this message that the path of Bhakti, Arjuna, we've already determined that you're not going to make it as an Ashtanga Yogi, but the path of Bhakti, where you remember me always, is even better. It's more direct, and it goes right to the point, and you derive all the same benefits from it. That'll come out here. It's the accounts that we hear from all kinds of end-of-life caregivers and psychologists, they all point in the same direction, that when people are right on the threshold of death, their minds seek out the strongest emotional anchor that it's ever known. And so like spontaneously, or almost like irresistibly, our minds go toward that person or that relationship that represents love and comfort and safety to us. And so, in a sense, what comes out in this chapter, chapter 8, is Krishna's telling Arjuna and telling us that if you understand me, Krishna's saying, and if you practice remembering me, your mind will take shelter in me at the moment of death, and you'll come to me, transcending this world and its endless cycles and struggles of birth and death. All right, so let's dip in. Chapter 1 begins with a question from Arjuna that ties directly to the last verse in the 7th chapter. And he's asking about technical terms mentioned in that last verse. He asks about what is Brahman, what is Adhyatma, what is Adhibhuta, what is Adhideva, what is Adhyagna. And in text 2 through 4, Krishna quickly answers these. I don't want to get into that. It's certainly worth diving into, but it will really slow us down, because the whole rest of the chapter is focused on the answer to the last question that Arjuna asked. And that question is, how can the yogi know you at the time of death? That's the theme of this chapter, right? So in text 5, Krishna begins to speak. And he says in text 5, whoever at the end of their life quits their body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. They attain, his nature means beyond the cycles of birth and death, beyond the influence of the modes of material nature, free of the influence of time, free like that, eternally free. One can enter into that. And then he says, not only that, not only if you remember me, you attain me, but he says, whatever state of being one remembers. This is a famous verse. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Whatever state of being one remembers when they quit their body, that state they'll attain without fail. Your thoughts create the template for your destiny, for your future. And so he's saying, Arjuna, remember me, and you'll come to me. But what is the method for remembering Krishna? Krishna is going to share that in texts 7 and 8. And so this is a beautiful verse, a famous verse, a verse that I really find I've always loved. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Tasmat means therefore, right? Whatever you remember at the time of death, that determines your destination. Tasmat, therefore, sarveshu kaleshu. Sarveshu means all. Kala means time. Therefore, at all times, always. Mam anusmara. Always think of me. Smarta means to remember. Smarta means to meditate. Smarta means to think. Therefore, always think of me. Always meditate on me. Always remember me. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. And Arjuna, and at the same time fight. Right? At the same time carry out your prescribed duties in this world. Right? Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. And then he says, with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me. This is the formula. Your activities are dedicated to me. You're being dutiful in this world, right? You're carrying out, being a good mother, again, right? Being a good father. If you're in a business world, being a responsible, righteous business person. If you're a teacher, being an authentic, true teacher. If you're a warrior in Arjuna's case, or like you could say a peace officer, or like a justice, a member of the justice system, his duty was to protect others and even to risk his life to do that. Then do that, right? Carry out your prescribed duties, but with your activities dedicated to me, those duties, and your mind, your manas, and your buddhi, your intelligence fixed on me, and thus you'll attain me without a doubt. Right? In text 8, he says, he who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Arjuna, they're sure to reach me. So here's the idea, right? He says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. He doesn't say just try to remember me at the time of death. He says, think of me always, right? Always be one, because we could die at any time, I suppose, but more significantly, because what we're always thinking about will determine what we think about at the end, and that will determine our destination. So here was the bhakti formula that that Kṛṣṇa gives Arjuna. Always think of me. Keep your mind engaged in me, but do it as a person active in this world. Even while carrying out a battle, you can be thinking of me. Manas is that decision-making part of the mind that's also just like kind of programmed to like and dislike or be attracted or averse to. Become attracted to me, right? And the intellect, the buddhi, that's that reasoning part. Use your reasoning to make me the center of your life, the purpose of your life. Then make your decision with your manas based on that. Dedicate your manas and your intellect and your impulsive mind and your reflective mind, or your reasoning aspect of your mind, and dedicate them both to me, right? While you're practicing abhyasa yoga yuktena from verse 8, right? Through repetition. This abhyasa means to practice through repetition. We're programmable. So program that mind in a better way so that it's attracted to me, right? So that it'll be fixed on that which is significant. And that's where we go. After this verse, after giving that formula, then Kṛṣṇa shifts and says, now, some do that as an Ashtanga yogi. They remember me as an Ashtanga yogi, which is a difficult path, right? It's not an easy path. But he gives this instruction of like how you can sit like an Ashtanga yogi and do these very subtle things where you bring your life force, you control your breath, and you bring your life force up to the tip of your head, and then you choose the moment you want to leave your body. That's going to come out in this chapter. And so now in text 9, he starts to describe that this more difficult yoga mixed with bhakti path, where you're remembering Kṛṣṇa, but you're doing it as an Ashtanga yogi. And he gives, while you're sitting there in your lotus position, very focused like a yogi, he says, meditate on me like this. Now, this is interesting, right? We get distracted by so many things. We just within the past few days, they came out, like they do pretty much every year, I think. They come out with a new iPhone, a new series of iPhones. And then they just, all of this advertising comes out just talking about how incredible this new iPhone is, that it does this, it's got a better screen, and it's thinner than it ever was, and it got a better camera than it ever had, and it's got, this and that, and all these great things about it, and people get caught up in it. People get absorbed in it. We've been saying all along that there's duty, there's knowledge, there's wisdom, and then there's absorption, and ultimately love. This chapter has so much to do with absorption, right? If you've achieved that peaceful mind, and now you have detachment in your life, and you have an evenness of mind, you're seeing every living being is connected with the Supreme, finding happiness within. Now your mind is peaceful and you can absorb it. Absorb it in me, Kṛṣṇa is saying. And how does one absorb it in Kṛṣṇa? You do it like this. Just like the iPhone's got this, that, the other. Kṛṣṇa is saying, meditate on me. And here's all the features that you can meditate on, right? He says, one should meditate upon me, the Supreme Person, as Kavim, this is text 9, as one who knows everything, right? Omniscient. As Puranam, as the oldest, right? As that original being beyond this universe. As Anushashitaram, as the controller. As Anur Aniyangsham, as the one who can manifest as smaller than the atom, right? He's inside everything. His Paramatma features is in everything. As the Sarvasya Dhataram, as the maintainer of everything. With Achintya Rupam, with a form that's inconceivable, and who is Aditya Varnam, who's luminous like the sun, and Tamasa Parastat, who's transcendental beyond all the darkness of this material realm. Sit there in your lotus position and meditate on these features, right? Not the better screen and the longer battery life and the better camera. These are the features this is what's astonishing, right? This is what's significant. This is what is uplifting. Bring your mind to this, right? And he's describing doing it like a yogi. And so in text 10, he describes, here's the instructions for how you do it. You sit like that, you meditate like that, and then you bring your life air up between this point between the eyebrows, right? And you keep your mind very steady and absorbed in remembrance of me with full devotion, right? Okay, that's not an easy thing to do. Moving one's life airs up to between. And then he describes this Ashtanga yogi lifestyle a bit more, that you maintain, this is text 11 through 13, you maintain a life of renunciation, right? Away from home, away from family, etc. You practice celibacy and self-discipline. You withdraw the senses from engagement by closing off all the doors of the senses. You go deep within, pratyahara. You concentrate the mind in the heart, and you raise the life air up to the crown of the head, and then you vibrate the sacred syllable Om while remembering Kṛṣṇa. And in this state, if you leave the body, you attain the spiritual realm, you attain the spiritual planets, you break free, right? Then, now we've already established that type of yoga is very difficult, but now Kṛṣṇa is saying, but you can do it in an easier way, Arjuna. That's what I'm asking you to do. In this text, text 14, very famous, beautiful text, and really captures this idea of absorption in this theme of this chapter, Ananya Cheta Satatam. Always, Satatam, Ananya Cheta, with a mind that's non-deviated, one-pointed, attention, awareness, all right? Remembrance, meditation, brought to one point. Ananya Cheta Satatam, with always, Satatam, without deviation, the mind being focused. Yomam Smarati Nityasaha. Nityasaha is Satatam, means always. Nityasaha means always, steadily, regularly. Mam Smarati. Yo Mam Smarati. One who remembers, one who meditates, one who thinks about, one who always remembers me. Tasyaham, for that person, Sulabha, Partha, Sulabha. I'm easy to obtain. Not Durlabha, difficult to obtain, like the Ashtanga Yogi's path. Sulabha, I'm easy to attain. Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. Again, Nitya. We got Satatam, we got Nitya Saha. Again, Nitya Yuktasya. Nitya Yuktasya means always connected to me, right? Yoginaha. For that yogi who is always connected to me, right? I'm easy to obtain. You know, to the yogi who is always connected to me, who constantly remembers me without distraction, I am very easy to attain, O son of Pritha. Again, think of the leaf. There's a tree that has so many leaves, and then there's a root to that tree which nourishes every leaf. As long as the leaf is connected to that tree, it's nourished and alive and vibrant. And Kṛṣṇa is saying here, connect to me. Nitya Yuktasya, always stay connected to me. Ananya Chetaha, with mind always absorbed in me. In the same ways that the Ashtanga yogi was sitting and meditating, one can always be thinking of Kṛṣṇa, who's omniscient and the original and the controller of everything, entering into every atom, maintaining everything with an inconceivably beautiful form, luminous like the sun, beyond the darkness of this world. We can meditate on him while working in this world, right? Just by always keeping him in our mind. And in text 15, he says, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion, they never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Now he's going to speak, now he's going to zoom out a bit. In text 16 through 22, he's going to zoom out and give us this perspective He's going to give us this vast cosmological perspective. Up to now, he's been speaking about remembering him at the time of death as a way to attain him. And now he describes the bigger picture of possible destinations after death that you could go to. Throughout the material realm, from the lowest planets to the highest, he's saying they're all places of misery, all subject to birth and death, right? Living in this world, in this universe, there's many planets. You could even go to the highest ones, down to the lowest. Even if you achieve those high planets that the Vedas glorify as a place of great enjoyment, he's saying actually they're miserable too, in this broader perspective. Birth and death take place, and there's nothing worse than after living for an incredibly long lifetime on the higher planets that you come down. Oh, it's heartbreaking. So he takes us to the top of this universe, to the realm of Lord Brahma, whose lifespan is inconceivably long. And he says, yet even his day and night are marked with, the cycle of creation and destruction. And that all us living beings were caught helplessly in these cycles, being created and annihilated again and again. But that beyond this temporary material world, there lies another reality, an eternal realm that's untouched by birth and death and misery and destruction. And when everything else is annihilated and this world goes through its cycle of destruction, that realm is untouched by time. It's the supreme abode of Kṛṣṇa. It's described by the Vedantins as unmanifest and infallible, right? It's not falling apart and going through destruction like this realm. And when you reach it, you never return. And it's, how is it attained? It is only attained by pure devotion. If you have pure devotion as an Ashtanga yogi, you can break into there, but it's only through devotion that is attained. And then he describes how the Ashtanga yogi, the death of the Ashtanga yogi, how they break through and how they break free. He's describing this very adept Ashtanga yogi can choose astrologically the most auspicious time to leave their body. And that's in text 23 through 26. But then again, contrasts and brings it back to the Bhakti yogi. But for Arjuna, you don't have to be this ridiculously self-controlled mystic person that can choose the exact right time for exiting their body astrologically and travel throughout the universe. You can just depend on me. And so in text 27 through 28, Kṛṣṇa is saying for the Bhakti yogi who's not using this path of mystic yoga, but simply remembering me, he says, those devotees of mine, they're never bewildered. And that simply through the path of bhakti, they attain everything, even they surpass the results that can be attained through all the different Vedic dharmas. And he lists them in text 27. Vedeshu, the study of the Vedas; Yagneshu, the performance of yagnas, of sacrifices and rituals; Tapeshu, these renunciates who practice austerities; Dhaneshu, one who gives in charity; or Punya Palam, those that try to accrue good merit in their life by living a good life to achieve the goal of the higher planets. He says that simply through bhakti one attains all of these. This is at the very end. Maybe we'll read this last verse. Text 30. Oh no, I'm in the wrong chapter here. Excuse me. Let me pull up text 30 in the right chapter. Chapter 8. I'm sorry, text 28. I'll read 27 and 28. Although the devotees, the bhaktas, they know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, pursuing philosophical or fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, they attain all of these, and in the end, they reach my supreme abode. It can all be done just through bhakti, just through remembering Kṛṣṇa as he is. So in conclusion, here's the chapter 8 in summary. One's thoughts while leaving their body will determine your next destination. So make Kṛṣṇa, the all-knowing, all-sustaining, timeless, transcendent, self-luminous, divine person, make him the object of your thoughts and stay always connected to him, making him the purpose of your life and the shelter that you take. And practice this remembrance reflecting on his presence and his qualities while being dutiful and responsible in life. And you can count on the most auspicious yogic destination, the supreme destination of Krishna's divine spiritual abode. That is chapter 8, called Attaining the Supreme. Please enjoy day 14, and we'll come back on day 15 to read chapter 9 together. Thank you so much. Hari Om Tat Sat.